Hey, hello, howdy, how you doing? SurrounDead has quickly become one of my favorite survival games of the year. So much so that I sat down and 100% of the game. But during that journey, I had to cut so many components just to stay in scope. Things like base building, POI exploration, and all that fun stuff. So today, I thought it'd be fun to sit down and attempt to survive 100 days in SurrounDead's permadeath mode, with some added challenges to raise the stakes. Here's what I came up with. 1. I need to clear all infestations in every city. 2. Explore every major POI. And 3. Reach and complete the oil rig. A very quick shout out to Chloe the Frenchie for not only napping on my couch, but for displaying a timestamp showing you all when a sponsor will appear. Alright, let's get to it. Meet John SurrounDead, a retired police officer, or what is it when they shoot a minority and get shipped off to another station, like a promoted police officer. His age, 69 420. I know, I'm very mature. None of this has any actual impact on the character, it's purely for immersion's sake, but I do think it's funny that there's no age limit that you can go up to. John's one redeeming characteristic is his purple hair and beard, and if you're asking yourself, why? The truth is, my mother-in-law just dyed her hair purple, and she's like 50, and I can't tell if it's like a midlife crisis or a personality crisis or both. But it scares me a little bit, and if she can do that at 50, then John deserves the right to do it at 69 420. First things first, gotta find out where we are. I feel like I start every SurrounDead video this way, but it's true, and it's how I start every playthrough. Since I don't have a GPS or a compass, the best way to find my location is to enter a POI, and then find said POI when it populates on the map. Alright, not the best location in the world, but there's still a bunch of loot to find here. Honestly, might be one of the better starts I've had. It's not every day you walk away from an abandoned house with 2 bags and a machete. With nowhere to go but south, I got to hiking. For about 30 seconds, until coming across a few deer. Now, I've read The Most Dangerous Game, and while that story has absolutely nothing to do with this setup, it did allow me to distract both you and the deer long enough to sneak up on them and cut them down with a machete. Shout out Rick. My big goal for day 1 is simply to make it to the first survivor camp so that I can get started on the greatest zero to hero money making method you've all probably had beaten into your skulls by now. Odds I make a Kobe joke for the 3rd straight SurrounDead video in a row? More of a Shaq guy myself personally. Call me crazy, but I'd rather watch a 400-pound guy shatter a backboard and kill 3 people courtside than a man quote-unquote carrying the 17-65 Lakers to a win over the sub-500 Jazz. But TGP, he scored 60 points. Yeah, but it took him 50 shots to get there. And he crashed a helicopter. The worst thing Shaq's done is mistake a wing on Hot Ones for a Gwyneth Paltrow candle. Welcome to Chester Lake. Here you can find a suitcase of clothes. Serious question, do we know why all the gay directors wear scarves like this? It's an epidemic, and I need answers. Nearby, I found a small camp setup that I looted for a compass, a new hatchet, and a fishing pole. No, it's cool. I didn't want to see anyway. Well, I've been going in the wrong direction this entire time. Great. This obviously continued into day 2, where I found my favorite melee weapon in the game, a fire axe. With said fire axe, I killed 3 more zombies that I could barely see, and looted a shotgun off one of the corpses. Further along the path, I came across my first friendly survivor camp where I was able to purify some of my water bottles, as well as craft some more rags for medical treatment. Once again, shotgun saved the day. And not just against some wolves this time. One of my favorite aspects of SurrounDead is the premise that you're in the middle of a living, breathing world. There's bandits, scavengers, zombies, animals, and they're all doing their thing, causing chaos, and sometimes you just happen to walk directly into it. Looting the bandits gave me an assault rifle and a few bullets. I can't really get any use of that right now, but it's definitely worth saving for later. Walking up to the mall gave me enough XP to hit level 4, which I then used to unlock the critical hitters skill to double my chance at landing crits. By that afternoon, I was safely through the front gates of the Valley Safe Zone, where I immediately got to work selling off all of my junk, and spamming single craft recipes to get started power leveling. Fun fact, I talked about this in the Nightmare Mode video, but as of recording this, you earn XP for the completed task rather than for the amount of items crafted. What I mean is, if you cook a piece of meat, you'll earn XP. But if you cook 5 pieces of meat, you'll still only earn the same amount of XP. It doesn't give you more just because the amount changed. So instead of penalizing yourself for convenience sake, you're much better off just spam clicking individual recipes and banking hundreds, if not thousands of XP in the process. With all the cash obtained from selling cooked meat, I swapped out the original bag for a 47-slot hiking backpack. And with those slots, it's time to get to work. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the biggest, bestest, greatest, undisputed GOAT of cash farming. Fishing. I wish I was kidding. Not only is this an amazing method for farming out XP by cooking all of the fish for free, but after collecting an entire inventory of raw fish and making my backpack smell like a Bon Jovi concert, all of that can be cooked and sold for double the price of the raw fish. Now with all that cash, I purchased a shit ton of bullets and shotgun shells, and set off to check out my first mini-boss, Paul Dart. Get it? Like the mall cop? Paul Dart is, in my opinion, the easiest boss in the game, considering you can just stand on this van and spray birdshot into his head from relative safety. I can't say 100% safety, because at least on Nightmare Mode, I've had Paul glitch on top of the van and almost one-shot me, but for the most part, you can kinda just farm him for a ton of loot. With Paul Dart taken care of, I was free to loot the mall. Well, kinda. There's still a shit ton of zombies hanging around, but at least they allow me to showcase some new info. After the Nightmare Mode video, I got a ton of comments saying to stop backpedaling while fighting zombies. As it turns out, yeah, if you just stand still, you can effectively stunlock every zombie. But if you backpedal, for whatever reason, the zombies recover from being stunned quicker, or it just doesn't take effect, and usually frees them up to hit you. So, case in point, just stand still when fighting normal zombies. Especially if you have a weapon like a fire axe. Continuing on, I looted the hunting rifle from the arcade before heading to the rooftop where the real loot is hidden. In total, I picked a safe for a ton of credits and cash, and a high-tier crate containing better gear, another rifle with some more attachments, and a gas mask. Shout out Laramie Tunsil. Here's the haul from the mall. Heading into day 4, my big goal was to find a GPS tracker. The only problem with that is that it's luck dependent. It really just comes down to looting a bunch of random junk piles and hoping I can get a lucky roll of the dice. Starting with the apartment complex. While I didn't land a GPS tracker, I did manage to find a shit ton of skill magazines that I used to power level fitness, stealth, and thievery. With those boosts, I gained a total of 5 skill points, which I used to purchase the Distraction and Lockpick Plus skills. To add on to the morning run, I came across a military airdrop and was able to walk away with a few high-tier medkits and some other oddities. That evening, while on a hunt for a suitable base location, I accidentally walked directly into a bandit camp, almost taking a bullet to the skull in the process. Look guys, I found Vault 76. On a serious note, this is going to become my new base, at least for now, serving as the abandoned vault's intended purpose. Just gonna have to kick out the neighbors first. While wandering the streets on day 5, I happened across another airdrop crate. This one contained medical supplies that I happily scooped up. With this newfound gear, I headed west towards one of my favorite camps in the game. Welcome to the Evergiven. It's got the exact same traders and crafting stations as the Valley Safe Zone, it's just on a ship that's crashed into the side of a canal. While talking to the black market trader though, I noticed something new for me to buy. Loot crates. A tier 3 loot crate to be specific. Opening it revealed a legendary rifle, the Survivor, that I happily grabbed. Also, real quick, because I know there's gonna be at least one of you, despite the permadeath mode saying it turns the autosave feature off, it still saves. It's been an issue with the game for over 5 months now, and no, I don't know if or when it'll be fixed. What I do know is that when you die, it wipes all saves associated with the game, including all of those autosaves that are logged. Day 6 kept the same goal as day 4. I need to find a GPS tracker so I can get started on the infestations. But as it stands now, I'm stuck looting farms and houses. I say that like it's a bad thing, but in reality, sometimes you get a little lucky and find an abandoned shipping container holding both an AR-15 and, you know, an M249 machine gun. Just wait till I get a scope on this thing, it's over. I know the Coyote mercenaries are stronger, but I appreciate the fact that the bandits have rushers who just dead sprint towards you like the Viet Cong guy and We Were Soldiers. Now you may see this and think, ew, gross, poor people. But I see this and say, I bet there's some key cards that the inhabitants are using as PBR coasters. The biggest problem I'm facing right now is entirely by my own doing, and that's the fact that I have way too much shit and not enough space to put said shit in. This inevitably led to me spending like 10 minutes of inventory Tetris, all in the hopes of saving as much junk as possible, because I might need those 4 nails at some point, guys. A car would be huge at this point though, and I know there's a trader that sells them, I just gotta get the cash to buy one, or hope I come across a broken down truck on the side of the road. Until then though, it looks like we're walking. Okay, this is a little boring, so I'll save you the trouble. I spent all of day 7 fishing. I know, super exciting shit. But you know what? That's okay, because while I fish, I can talk to you about life and how Factor Meals has changed mine. It's been a few weeks since we've moved, and I gotta say, I was not anticipating every room still being filled to the brim with totes and boxes. On top of that, there's all this housework to be done, repairs to be made, trying to be a good dad, and by the end of the day, sometimes I'm just too exhausted to want to spend 45 minutes making dinner. And it's here where I say, thank God for Factor Meals. These bad boys are fresh and ready within 2 minutes. All you have to do is peel back the film, or stab it with a knife if you're on an Ed Gein kick, and chuck it into the microwave. Sure, it's not a salad with the dressing on the side, but Factor Meals did just release their healthiest menus yet, with over 80 weekly rotating meals to choose from, which is more than double the size of their original menu. Speaking of menus, Factor Meals also has all of these options for meal plans developed by registered dietitians. These include high protein, keto friendly, and GLP-1 balanced options. I've been working with Factor for months now, and there's a reason for that. They taste good, they're healthier than pretty much any other frozen dinner or quick meal option you can buy at the store, and they also don't break the bank to order. Chloe loves them, Ollie likes them, Leo wasn't too sure about them, but that's okay, he eats hair ties and his opinion doesn't matter. So, when you're ready to come hang out with the cool kids at Casa de TGP, head to Factor75.com and use code PREDSFB50 for 50% off and free breakfast for 1 year. Thank you to Factor Meals for sponsoring this video, and now, back to Fishing Simulator. Just look at all those fish, though. Time to go turn in a profit. Alright, a little less than I was hoping for, but 5k is still 5k. And with that 5k, I'd like to hopefully find something drivable. Just kidding, it's tree chopping time. I know where the car dealer is, so I can go there anytime. What I really need right now is some more storage for my excess guns and junk that I've been hoarding. To do that, I'll need a construction bench, but to make a construction bench, I'll first need a crafting bench. Okay, bear with me, this is kind of a rant, but also something that I really think could use some balancing. Why does the smaller green crate, with 50 storage slots, cost half the resources as the wooden crate with 48 storage slots, and almost half the resources to make as the 36-slot massive storage crate? I feel like if something holds less items in it, that crate should require less resources to make. Vice versa, the larger an object is in-game, the more items it should hold in theory, and thus, because it's larger, it should require more resources to make. In this instance, a 50 storage green crate that you can slap on the floor and dump your guns into costs 8 planks and 6 nails. But the much larger storage crate, physically, holds less than the smaller green crate with only 36 slots, and that costs 12 planks and 6 nails. So 4 more planks for 14 fewer storage slots, while also being a larger physical item than the green crate. To add on to that, there's another crate that also costs 12 planks and 6 nails to make, but this one has 49 slots. So for the exact same resource cost, this crate is just better, completely nullifying the lesser crate. Why would I waste resources to make something that only holds 36 slots when I could use the exact same amount of resources on something that holds 49? This probably isn't something that's a major focus point for the dev, but it is something that threw me for a loop when I first saw it, and considering crafting and base building is a major component of survival games, it's something that I really hope gets reworked in the near future. Like I said, it's not something that's going to fundamentally change the way anyone plays the game or anything like that, but it's something that caught my eye back in the 100% run I did, and I wanted to bring it up here in an attempt to get some more eyes on the issue. Anyway, on to day 9. Hopefully I end up with a car today, but worst case scenario, I keep complaining about crates and we forget today ever happened. There's a trader near the bridge to the north of me, so I got started in that general direction. Welcome to Walshy's Vehicular Shop. There's over a dozen cars to buy here, and I can afford none of them at the moment. So that's nice. Good thing there's a city nearby just waiting for me to loot it. There's another boss here guarding the grocery store, so after speaking to the manager, I looted it for some SMGs, and pushed in and looted what little remained of the building. Across the street, I found a few fire axes to bring back, along with a military-grade weapons locker, which comes standard with every cubicle in corporate America. There's an infestation here, but I don't have the gear needed to bring it down yet. So I'm just gonna kind of avoid it for now and keep moving. On the bright side, on top of maxing out my inventory, I also managed to find a GPS. Oh, and another LMG. With all that extra gear, I managed to earn another $1,000 or so, which is great. Until you remember I need like 15k to get a car. After spending the night at the Valley Safe Camp, it was back on the road to find said car, but settling for a shotgun at the grain campsite instead. Speaking of campsites, SurrounDead has this really cool mechanic where random world events can trigger, such as abandoned campsites for you to explore and loot. On top of that being a great spot to farm a few kills, you can find some pretty insane loot here, such as legendary sniper rifles. But aside from that, today was just more looting. And when I ran into the familiar roadblock of maxing out my inventory, it was followed by a cross-country sprint back to the safe zone to sell all of my junk at a discounted price. But you know what? It was all worth it, because look at what I found the next morning. Sure, it barely starts and there's no way I'll get insurance on it, but it starts, and that's all that matters. With a sorted out inventory and some now extra storage, it's time to take on my first infestation. Mainly because, there's a shit ton of them, and we're already 11 days in, so the sooner I get to work clearing these out, the better. With that though, this is probably one of the easiest infestations I've ever cleared. The first secondary zone was on the 3rd floor of an apartment building with no zombies around. Unlike other zones, this one only had one secondary infestation to clear out. And by the time the zombies even spawned in, I was already on the ground floor pushing back to the primary infestation. I feel like the loot pools have also been updated since the last time I tried any of this, because I remember the Black Ops clothes, but I don't remember the Black Ops pistol. You know, I probably should have kept track of zombie kills here, because I definitely tacked on at least another 50 with the axe alone. All in a day's work, though. Okay. Maybe I completely forgot that a boss spawns after destroying an infestation, but that's why we carry full stacks of medical supplies. Anyway, back to looting. As the sun rose on day 12, I carefully made my way over to the nearest trader, only to come across Richard Kuklinski himself. This is the guy you can redeem all those credits at, and he's currently holding some of the most busted and OP weapons in the entire game. Check these bad boys out. We're gonna have to come back for this later. Now, as far as I'm aware, he bounces around randomly to a few different locations every time you access the save. So, as long as I just, never log out for the next 88 days, I'll know where to find him. Until then, it's time to sell a bunch of shit, craft a repair kit, and get this Jeep up and moving again. That afternoon, I was bamboozled by a friendly scav thinking I could lift his RV off of him, only to find a mini camp set up on the other side of it. Just on the other end of the road from said camp, I found a group of bandits lying in wait. So instead of getting jumped by them, I pumped a runner full of buckshot and let the zombies handle the rest. To end the day, I took a few minutes to craft and place a disassembly bench, and then dumped all of my shitty ammo into it for tons of casings and gunpowder. Building off of the previous day, I kept myself busy by crafting a weapons bench, allowing me to craft Molotovs and ammo. With said bench, I went ahead and crafted 75 rounds of Winchester 300, which can be used in conjunction with my legendary sniper. Now I just gotta, find a mag for said sniper. And what better way to find one than by raiding another infestation zone? If the first one was a cakewalk, this one was more like someone shit in the cake and smeared it on my face. There's zombies everywhere, but at least the secondary infestations were easy to put down, only requiring one mag of 5.56 each. As for these zombie waves, I gave up trying to fight with a fire axe and fell back on the tried and true method of car camping with a shotgun. For the primary infestation, I mag dumped it until it broke, and then pulled off a sick nade drop before wiping the rest of the horde with an AR-15. All this did for me was make me want to play Days Gone, but that's a different video for another time. All whining aside, the boss fight was incredibly easy. I was fortunate enough to be far enough out of range for it to not give a shit about me, and because of that, I was free to spend most of the fight poking it with the AR-15 and a new pistol before finishing it off with the shotgun. When it comes to the hall, I think it's easier to just show you. That night, I went ahead and disassembled a few hundred rounds in order to restock on 5.56 for the Colonel's Revenge. Day 14 was all about shedding extra gear. I've been stockpiling a ton of junk over the past 2 infestations that I really just need to get rid of, and that was the plan for today. After gunning down some bandits, of course. After getting rid of most of the junk, I traded in my backpack for a 60-slot coyote pack. And even with that purchase, I still walked away with over 10k in the bank. With said cash, I shall gamble it all away. After raiding the police station. Gotta say, I was expecting a little bit more, but it's not really like I need the gear right now. It was just kind of there, so I took it. Anyway, it's time to get bold. We've killed zombies, cleared a few infestations, and even dropped several bosses. One thing I haven't done yet is assault a bandit camp. I tried to go in stealthily, but that went about as well as you would expect it to go. So, after finishing the remaining bandits with a poorly placed grenade, I got to work looting the bodies, walking away with a level 2 keycard taken from the corpse of the bandit leader. The crates were less than stellar, but that's still a few $100s in salvageable weapons. With the remainder of the day, I finally got around to looting some airdrops. Nope, I've mentioned it before, and I'll mention it here. Airdrops are insanely overpowered. But they're in the game, and I don't feel like artificially inflating the difficulty by restricting them for some bullshit made-up reason. They're in the game, so I'm gonna take them when I feel like taking them. That being said, 90% of this is gonna get sold to the nearest safe camp. Deal with it. Another day, another infestation. This time, the gun store. I'm still hunting for either a magazine for the legendary sniper, or at least a scope for the hunting rifle. And given that this is both an infestation zone and a gun store, it feels like a great place to start. Alright, easy enough. Time to loot. Ooh, I think this is a new one. I don't think I've seen this one before. And there's our hunter's scope. Overall, this ended up being the best infestation I'd looted to date. And not even just that, but how about all of the extra gear in the gun store? Or the 2 safes holding some extra supplies and a ton of credits. While dicking around at the safe zone on day 17, I noticed a world event for an abandoned convoy. So I immediately started making my way over to it. While I do love these random world events, I have another request. For instances like this, where we are interacting with an abandoned military convoy carrying military-grade gear and supplies, I'd love to engage with military-skinned zombies. Instead, I'm still fighting against regular civilian zombies who just happen to be carrying various bullets and grenades. To me, it makes much more sense to have these zombies be wearing some form of military garb to imply that the abandoned caravan was overrun. That being said, I do really like the added mini-boss here, even if I took advantage of the hunting rifle to get rid of it. After looting the convoy, I found a note next to a radio saying that communication had been lost for every POI except for oil rig number 2, which then prompts the question, where the hell is oil rig number 2, and how do I get to it? Look guys, a bag, within a bag, within a bag. You can stop spamming comments about it now. My god, this is so stupid. Day 18 might have been the first time I've ever come across two rival factions duking it out with each other in the middle of the street. On the far end of the road, you've got a detachment of coyote soldiers in top-tier gear, well coordinated and well covered. Nearby, you've got bandits, equipped with basic assault rifles and bolt-action rifles, just throwing haymakers at each other. So naturally, I had to insert myself into the mix as well. This felt almost reminiscent of that Enemy of My Enemy mission in the OG Modern Warfare 2, where it's almost a free-for-all. The goal is to weaken each side without completely eliminating one group before the other is also significantly weakened. And it ended up kind of working out perfectly, for the most part. Like I said earlier, the coyote soldiers are well geared, and their loot pool reflects that, especially compared to regular bandit soldiers. I say regular bandit soldiers because the leader had several keycards on his corpse that I pocketed for later use. Of course, for every bandit boss, there's a coyote lieutenant with a similar loot pool to hoard for myself. Turns out, the loot from the corpses was actually way better than the actual world event POI abandoned military van. Shout out Wandering Trader for wandering. I was able to dump the rest of the gear over at the Evergiven, bringing me up to just under 15k and setting the stage for an eventful next few days. Starting with the prison. This is my first encounter with the prison. It's located near my bunker, so I figured why not start there and see what it has to offer. Sounds like I'm not the only one who had this idea though. It's a radiated zone, so gas masks are needed, unless you want to end up as the central character in a Fallout remake. Alright, enough of that. With the parking lot cleared, I took a deep breath and used a level 1 keycard on the first security door. What? That awkward moment when you clumsily and inadvertently turn an impatient blunder into a success story. At this point, I could hear some pretty loud groaning and mouth breathing coming from the back room, so I took a moment to swap to the Benelli before heading back into the building. As it would turn out, probably the smartest thing I could have done, considering the boss here got stuck in the door. With the prison boss killed, I was free to loot the ground floor. There's a ton of military crates lying around, and on top of finding a tier 1 loot crate, I also managed to scoop up another legendary gun, the Guardian. I also found another entrance through the side of the prison at the cost of another level 1 keycard. The second floor was entirely blocked off, at least through the stairwell, so I'll have to find another way in there. Aside from the toxic waste, the entire third floor is fully open to loot. There's even a hidden military chest stuck in a prison cell that you can access by crouch walking through a hole in the wall and then scaling the wall in the corner that I thought was really cool. I also found a safe in one of the prison cells hidden behind a corner. The eastern wing was a bit less interesting, but I still managed to find another bulletproof vest and a briefcase containing another keycard. But wait, there's more. The fourth floor, much like the second floor, is entirely blocked off, save for one crate holding a Silence of the Lambs mask, shout out Clarice. And then you've got the rooftop housing a downed helicopter, because all the Battlefield 6 vets are letting the COD players try them for the first time, so, mistakes were bound to happen here. It's not the biggest POI in the game, but you gotta appreciate that even the smaller, Tier 1 locations still have some solid gear to find and a boss to defeat. To end the day, I unboxed that Tier 1 crate to reveal a bunch of 9mm ammo that I'm totally not just gonna disassemble and craft into 5.56. All in all, a pretty solid day. And what better way to carry that momentum forward than by dedicating hours of my life to base building? Historically, I am, terrible at base building in survival games. Most of my Minecraft houses are relegated to big wooden squares, and that max level creativity has followed me my entire life. So when it comes to games like SurrounDead, living in a bunker is a great fix for that. But it's also not the most spacious location. Thankfully, we've got a ton of room just outside of said bunker, so here's the plan. Stockpile tons of material. Come back and see what's available to build. This is all a roundabout way of me saying I spent the next several days doing nothing but chopping down trees, farming scrap metal from vehicles, looting a legendary revolver off of a bandit assault, shouting rock and stone while collecting rock and stone, and this is the result. Not bad, right? With all that wood and scrap metal and stone, I refined most of it into nails, planks, and high-quality metal. With said material, I crafted 2 guard towers and placed them directly outside of the bunker doors. Next up, I crafted a well using some of these stones and wood in storage, before adding a door to the bunker entrance with the high-quality metal I had lying around. And finally, behold, a gate. A gate with no walls, because I need rope. To get said rope, I need to rip up clothing for rags. It takes 5 rags to craft 1 rope, which is fine. It just means I need a shit ton of cloth, and to my knowledge, the best way to get cloth is by shredding clothing. And what better way to obtain that clothing than by heading into the nearby city of Lawrence Creek. There's a mini-boss here that I hosed down with the Colonel's Revenge, but he didn't drop much worth taking. There's also a subway entrance here, but I don't like the smell of piss, shit, and homeless people, so I'm not gonna go down there yet. For now, my main goal is just to acquire as much clothing as possible. That being said, it turned out to be much more difficult than I was hoping for. Mainly because there are several buildings that aren't completed yet, so the city feels hollow compared to some of the other POIs on the map. Never forget what you're fighting for. Despite a few houses being completely empty, the motel made up for it big time. Look, it's Jesus Christe. There's also a high tier crate on top of the grocery store, but I think we have different definitions of high tier. As I was looting the crate though, I got hit with a notification informing me that the blood moon was upon us. What is the blood moon? No idea. I assume it's very similar to the 7 Days to Die Horde Nights, but I didn't get that vibe from it, so maybe it's still in implementation. I personally would love a Horde Night event. I think it would really help give me a reason to build out a base more and add things like turrets to the guard towers. But until then, this is what we're working with. Overall, Lawrence Creek was a bit underwhelming, but I did manage to walk away with over 20 cloth. After spending all day yesterday raiding a town with very little success, I couldn't remember if the traders also sold cloth, so I took the day to scoop up some nearby care packages before heading on over to Valley Station to see what I could find. Turns out, the trader here only sells 1 singular rope. Not even enough to hang yourself with. In Minecraft. Day 28 was a massive prep day. I'm planning something big, but I need the gear to pull it off, starting with ammo. So I took a few hundred rounds, disassembled them, and used every casing and all of my gunpowder to craft tons of 5.56 ammo. and when I ran out of casings, I refined my scrap metal into high quality metal and used all of that to craft more bullet casings. In total, I ended the day with over 1,000 rounds of 5.56 ammo that I'm sure I totally won't burn through in less than a day. So, where are we off to on this fine morning, you might ask? Well, how about an abandoned airfield in the very south of the map? It's been one of the most requested POIs for me to explore, and considering I've never been there before, I didn't want to go in empty-handed. So, I'm bringing an M249 LMG with 5 total box mags. I'm also bringing a legendary M2010 sniper rifle, despite not having a mag for it. I figure, worst case, I'll chamber each round individually as needed. I'm also bringing a Benelli M4 shotgun for any close quarters engagements, along with several weapon and armor repair kits, and all the ammo I could shove into my pants. I have 9 level 0 keycards, 6 level 1s, and 3 level 2s, so hopefully I don't need any more than that. Or if I do, maybe I can luck into some there. While on my way to the airfield though, I came across another trader. Trader Bob. He doesn't really have anything crazy for sale here, but it was still cool to randomly come across him instead of having to look up a guide. Hopefully he'll have a more unique inventory in future updates. Oh, just gonna take the long way around. Just before reaching the airfield, I came across a Coyote Soldier checkpoint, so I parked the SUV and got to work. That wasn't all though, because directly behind the mercenaries, for the second time this playthrough, I found a group of bandits waiting in ambush. They seemingly cleared out the remaining Coyote soldiers, allowing me to hang back and pick them off with the sniper rifle. Alright, how do I get one of these bad boys for myself? It's worth mentioning that I do really enjoy fighting the hostile NPCs, and it's almost always worth it, especially when fighting the mercenary group, as their lieutenants typically drop armor and keycards. The crates aren't amazing by any means, but I did manage to scoop up a weapons locker for the bunker, so that was nice. The bandit boss also had a military intel laptop on him, so I scooped that up as well. Honestly, this haul alone would have been good enough to call it for the day for me, but I was so close to the airfield that I couldn't justify turning back yet. Case in point, abandoned military vehicle holding a massive backpack and another generator. Oh look, more backpackception. You're welcome. After spending the night in my car, I arrived at Valley Airfield as the sun rose on day 30. It's a tier 2 radiation zone, but thanks to Clarice, I don't have to worry about that. Like I said earlier, I'd never been here prior to this playthrough, and my initial thoughts were, it's kinda empty. At least in terms of zombies. I was expecting it to be swarming. And sure, there were a ton of radiated zombies, but I was hoping for like triple this amount. Complaining aside, there is so much to do here. For starters, how about the downed Blackhawk near the entrance? You can't loot it, but there's a ton of military crates sitting around it, waiting for your grubby little hands to break them open. To the left, you've got the barracks. This is why I brought the shotgun. Inside each of the buildings, I found tons of military crates, weapon lockers, and other high-tier loot containers, all holding a variety of items from gas masks to firearms to clothing for me to shred up. No, I also found another M20 sniper and stole the mag off of it for my own. Across from the barracks is a giant military warehouse with some more crates in it, but I didn't find much over there, so let's just keep it moving. General Romez is the POI boss of the airfield, and he's skinned to fit the part. Imagine being a small Vietnamese child and seeing that Hulk just come sprinting out of the tree line into your village. It's not just him though, there's a second boss here, the bodyguard, and to my knowledge, this is the only POI that has 2 bosses in it. At least from what I've explored so far. I'm sure there's at least one more hidden somewhere. I was able to kill the general before he could contact me about his new insurance policies, but tipped the bodyguard in the process. Thankfully, he was nothing that an M249 and a few medkits couldn't handle. On the other side of the bosses lies the traffic control tower. The ground floor is covered in high-tier military crates and weapons lockers that I looted for some miscellaneous gear. Same with the second floor, but the real hype is in the tower itself. It's full of containers to lockpick, including a master safe, and call me crazy, but I feel like a master safe should be holding more gear than a single credit that I could also buy from a trader for $1,000. At the very top of the traffic control tower, I found 2 high-tier military crates, but no legendary weapons. There's still a special container for me to find as well, hidden somewhere within the airfield, so I waited until morning to continue hunting for that. Not gonna lie, I completely forgot I had night vision goggles. In the next hangar, I found another Guardian, so I threw that in the backpack to sell later as well. After looting the rest of the airfield, I still hadn't found the special crate. What I did find, though, was that the bosses respawned. Easy enough. Fun fact, this master safe was statistically twice as good as the one in the control tower. Honestly, at first glance, I just assumed this hangar was off limits because the doors were shut on it while being blown off the other 2. In actuality, it just requires a level 2 keycard to access. Doing so reveals another boss and a shit ton of crates to loot. Unfortunately for me, I'm too much of a loot goblin and had already filled my inventory, forcing me to run all the way back to the SUV to drop off as much gear as possible, only to find out that as soon as I set foot outside of the airfield, all of the zombies respawned inside of it. The hangar was loaded, obviously, but one last gripe, I promise. The novice lock safe has the exact same loot as the second master safe I found here. Please tie the quality of loot to the difficulty of the safe. Same with the special containers. There's a ton of hype for them. It's marked a task on your map when you enter these larger POIs, but it doesn't feel rewarding when you finally locate and open the crate, only to find the exact same loot that you can grab from a standard weapons locker. Outside of that, this was a really cool POI to explore. Very straightforward, 3 bosses, and a ton of open space to pick off the zombies with. It's not my favorite by any means, but it's definitely a step above the prison for sure. This next part is not a gripe or anything like that. I just fanficked in my head when I saw that you can find ghillie clothing here, but how cool would it be to have a coyote mercenary boss in here dressed in a ghillie suit sniping at you? And you could have like a sort of sniper mini boss fight where you have to track him via sniper glint or by watching his movements in the ghillie suit, and killing him awards you the clothing set instead of random loot chance. This is the total haul from the Airfield and mercenary convoy. Multiple legendary weapons, a ton of weapon lockers and crates for bunker storage, and a few backpacks for additional storage inside of those crates. Now it's time for the long journey home, accompanied by endless minutes of reorganizing my base with all of this new loot. This lasted for the remainder of day 32 and all of day 33 before the bunker was cleaned up to a livable state. And by that, I mean all weapons and attachments organized by locker, and most of the general tents and crates had been cleaned up and sorted. With the extra gear, I drove back to Valley Station and sold off everything I had for thousands in cash. On my way back to base that afternoon though, I passed the ice cream vendor again, and spent some of my credits on a Horde beacon and another Colonel's Revenge magazine. I'm assuming the Horde beacon just spawns a massive Horde, so we'll have to give that a shot once I find a cool place to call it in at. But for now, it'll remain safely hidden away in my bunker. There are 8 infestations left on the map for me to wipe out, along with a handful of bosses and cities to explore. And to be honest, I wasn't exactly sure which ones I wanted to focus on first. What I ended up landing on was to start in the northeast and slowly make my way down through the infestations as I came across them, starting with Lwood. Oh no. Has anyone checked on George W. lately? Pulling up to the military checkpoint, I found a radio and turned it on. Through the static, I'm told about a group of rogue military soldiers, which would be terrifying if I hadn't already riddled entire convoys full of bullets. After clearing the area, I pushed into the infestation zone and got to work. There are 2 secondary infestations in Lwood, with the first being next to the primary infestation inside the junkyard. It's super easy to eliminate, and you can also just hop onto the wrecked cars if you're worried about getting mauled by the respawning waves of zombies. The second infestation can be found on the 2nd floor of a nearby building. Another really easy spot to defend, considering these zombie waves can only come up through the singular stairwell, so you can just lock it down and wait out the storm. With both secondary infestations destroyed, I was able to safely return to the junkyard and wipe out the primary infestation, spawning in the big boss. With the big boss killed, all that's left to do is loot its corpse along with the primary infestation. Oh, and kill this city's mini-boss, Grundy. As day 34 turned into day 35, I chose to stay in Lwood and continue hunting for the special crate within the city, with it being the final item on the checklist. Initially, I assumed it could be found in the grocery store that Grundy was hanging out by, but after reaching the rooftop, I was sorely mistaken. Off in the distance though, I saw a hospital and ran over to check it out. While the hospital itself has multiple stories, they're all basically the same, consisting of a few medical rooms without much loot. The final stairway is also blocked off, and while I did try to find another way to the top, I gave up after a few minutes and moved on. Funny enough, I ended up finding the special crate completely by chance while dicking around inside the motel. Was it worth it? Absolutely fucking not. But it's done now, so welcome to Wilson's shop. Another static trader that I found by simply driving towards the next infestation. Much like Bob, he does not have a unique shop, but it's a nice little safe haven to sell gear at instead of having to drive all the way down to the Valley Safe Zone or the Evergiven. After spending the night at Wilson's shop, it was off to yet another infestation. This time, an old abandoned church in the north. The first secondary infestation can be found next to the parking lot, so I hosed that down before swapping to my pistol, which, according to Gaz, is always faster than reloading. It also just gave me the excuse to use said pistol after looting it all those hours ago. With the first of two destroyed, I found the second one inside the church. Crazy enough, not the most threatening thing to come out of the Catholic Church this year alone. Listen, we were all thinking it. The primary infestation looks to be next to the start of a mass grave, and following the other infestations, destroying it spawns the upside down version of Amy Slayton. Thankfully, he got stuck on the church, shot out priests, and I was able to mag dump him without any hassle. Looting the primary infestation netted me a legendary Glock, of which I have a ton of attachments for sitting back at base. Oh look, a rare albino bear, also known as a polar bear. Fascinating. The Wandering Trader in SurrounDead doesn't get enough love. Gotta be one of my favorite components of any game to just have wandering traders roaming the lands with some potential rare and even legendary gear for sale. There really isn't much to be said for day 37. I spent almost all of it organizing the base yet again. Tends to happen when you go on a multi-day raid looting spree and couple that with a dose of extreme loot horde tendencies. With all the extra gear, I set off on a small single-day road trip to sell it all at the crashed ship and valley safe zone. To kick off day 39, I used some of my accumulated cash to purchase a new vehicle. Originally, I wanted a Charger so that everyone could see how massive my cock, but instead, I landed on a souped-up utility truck so that everyone could see how massive my cock. With the new truck, I have a ton of extra storage that'll allow me to travel further and raid more locations before having to head home and be alone with my thoughts. Of course, none of that matters if I don't have fuel for it. Thankfully, I have dozens of gallons sitting back at the vault, so I took the SUV for one more joyride to go scoop some of it up and refuel the truck. So I've got a sick-ass truck. Naturally, I hopped into it and went on a long road trip to the other side of the map, right? Or I could go right next to the trader and fuck up a shift manager just getting off of work over in Whitewood. Do you think Taylor Swift named these towns, or is Travis Kelce's influence just that great? Up next on First Take. There's another infestation here. Shocker, I know. And with the mini-boss already taken care of, I'm free to waltz right in and save the city. The only real change compared to previous infestations is the fact that I'm using a different legendary weapon. The first legendary gun I looted from a crate that I found out existed in this very video, the Survivor, is an AK that deals 10 more damage per shot than the Colonel's Revenge, and I kitted it out with a few drum mags. And I gotta say, I love the sound this thing makes. I know it typically goes unspoken in most video games, but sound design is such a key feature, and the fact that all of these guns sound amazing just scratches an itch that I didn't even know I had until I discovered SurrounDead a few months ago. Anyway, wanna watch a boss spawn on top of me? God, I love this gun. Following in the footsteps of Lwood, it would take practically all of day 41 for me to find the hidden POI crate inside of Whitewood. Can you guess where it is? Unlike Lwood, this hospital's rooftop wasn't blocked off, which is where you can find the crate. The only other thing I did today was head on up to the Firewatch Tower that I found during my Nightmare playthrough. Still one of my favorite spots in the game. Another day, another infestation. this time over on the far eastern side of the map. The infestation zone is really just a small barn and watchtower, but not everything needs to be some crazy exuberant build. This zone specifically, though, only has one secondary zone, so I was able to cook both the primary and secondary infestations with one drum mag, before any of the zombie waves even spawned in. From there, I climbed up on the water tower, thinking it would be an easy way to take out the boss from safety, only for it to end up being more difficult than just simply standing on the ground and mag dumping the damn thing. With the boss camping the ladder, there's only one thing left for me to do.
You thinking what I'm thinking, partner? Aim for the bushes.
It was at this point that I realized, oh yeah, I have skills I could be buying. So I spent 10 points on a get out of jail free skill that saves me from death once per playthrough. And the ability to deal more damage at night. Those are equal. While driving towards another infestation, I found myself passing by the observatory that I had completely forgotten about up until this point. Naturally, instead of continuing on, I slammed the brakes, hopped out, and got to work making my way uphill. What up, nerds? With the coyote soldiers dealt with, I took up Overwatch and started scanning for the mini-boss. For like 30 seconds, until I got bored, found some more soldiers, and gunned them down as well. Turns out, that was the right play, since it gave me a clear line of sight for the Observatory mini-boss, Changed Astronomer. Friendly reminder, there's mines here. While posing for more screenshots, I had this realization. How fucking awesome would it be if you could trigger coyote raids where you have a wave defense portion? Like, where you have to defend an area from a detachment of soldiers, instead of constantly being the one to attack. Like, if you could reprogram the Horde beacons to trigger for coyote soldiers or bandit raids. I don't know, I'm just adding that to the wish list. Anyway, the POI's crate here is sitting inside the observatory tower. The journey isn't done just yet, though. While the observatory might be one of my favorite POIs, this infestation might be my least favorite in the game. Mainly because it's in some dumpy house, directly next to a sick-ass racetrack. I just feel like there was a missed opportunity here to have another unique infestation location, but instead, it's just another set of houses in the middle of fucking nowhere. Much like every other infestation at this point, I steamrolled through it without much issue. I say much issue because the boss did get stuck in me, which for some reason really fucks up the weapon audio, but other than just getting tinnitus, I was fine. Oh, and I also found this abandoned tunnel. It's not even a secret tunnel, just abandoned. Sad. For my final stint on the road, I found myself in the northwest at an abandoned military base. The boss here is another simple takedown, especially with the Leche sniper rifle that lands headshots for almost 700 damage. And with the Horde quelled, it's time to get to looting. Picking a master lock weapon safe lands me some extra supplies, but the real gear came on the other end of the base, in the form of keycards. Just pretend I haven't been stacking them for like the past 50 days. The barracks over here all have 3 rooms with at least 1 weapons locker and 1 supply crate in each. Some even have a safe that can be lockpicked for a few credits. The special crate for this location can be found in the unfinished building on the 3rd floor. What would a fitting end to the road trip look like if it wasn't 2 full days of stashing all my loot and deciding what was worth keeping and what was worth shipping off to the goodwill of this new apocalyptic society? Day 48 was another infestation and yet another POI. Unlike the others though, this one's located on the west side of the map, and it's a port. And with this being a new location, it's time for a new gun. The Crusher is basically just the Survivor, but red. It does a little less damage, shoots slower, has a lower crit chance, but it's red, and that's gotta count for something. Anyway, welcome to Longdown Port. Certainly the largest location I've visited so far, and by far the most unique. Sure, I've been to a few cities that may be filled with buildings, and I visited the Airfield, which, while it may match the size, is mostly empty in the middle. But the port may be both as large as the Airfield and as dense as a city, at least on paper. To start, you have these giant log piles that can hide a few zombies behind them. On the southeastern side of the port, I found some of those massive cranes that blue-collar dudes and dudettes use to move shipping containers onto those big-ass boats, but you can't climb the ladder. Not to worry though, I was able to find another way up onto them. Don't think I'm supposed to be here, but that's for the dev to worry about later on. Onto the first boat. Hell yeah. Fuck. Okay, so it's super easy to get stuck here. I think in total, I found myself phasing through the boat at least 15 times during my trip, which really bummed me out because I was kind of fully expecting to be able to explore the interior of the ship, or at least the exterior. But no, they're more so just for show. Same with the rocks. On the bright side, getting stuck on said rocks did allow me to find and execute Captain Phillips, meaning I'm the captain now. Now to head back to my hometown and continue selling phones at my brother's mall kiosk. Shout out Strobe Light Sons, out here doing God's work. Literally. Alright, on to the infestation. The first one is under a crane in the south, just past the initial boat. Obviously, this continued into day 49, where I destroyed the second infestation, located in the dead center of the port. From there, I took out the primary infestation and the boss that for some reason spawned like halfway across the port from the primary location. Coincidentally, while jumping down to loot the dead boss, I ended up finding the special crate for the port located towards the southeast, all the way down next to the destroyed boat. Speaking of boats, see that big-ass shipping freighter? It'd be pretty cool if you could go onto it, wouldn't it? Well, keep dreaming, dork. Overall, the port may be the best example of that phrase, a pond a mile wide but an inch deep. On paper, and from a distance, this place looks incredible. At first glance, there is so much to explore. It's fully unique, there's boats, cranes, shops, piles of shipping containers and lumber, but in reality, it's all a shell, and in my opinion, one of the biggest letdowns of the game thus far. Right next to the port, you can find the town of West Grove. There isn't an infestation here, but there is a boss and a special crate, which means it's time to get to hunting. Literal seconds after typing that sentence, I headed into a random building, noticed it had some stairs, went down said stairs, found a vault, and subsequently the special crate. This immediately reminded me of the Time Enough at Last Twilight Zone episode, and I was really hoping to find a reference here, and while I didn't find that, I think I found arguably something better. After dealing with a wave of zombies who'd flooded downstairs, I looted a hidden cache to find a legendary katana. If this was Zomboid, I'd be shitting myself right now. Until it broke in 15 swings. It deals more damage and has a higher crit chance than the axe, so I was pretty hyped to try it out. And you know what? It acts exactly how you think it would. I mean, it's a legendary fucking katana. Would be kinda stupid if it sucked. With my newfound melee powers, I decided to put it to a real use on a real boss, the Western Monster. So, naturally, instead of using the katana, I three-shotted it with a sniper rifle because, duh, this thing headshots for like 700 damage. With both the special crate and mini-boss checked off the list, I took a few minutes to explore some of the buildings before calling it on the day. All in all, it's a nice little town with some cool buildings to check out. But by this point, I have more than enough loot to justify sorting through people's trash. Instead of heading back to base though, I opted to hit up one more location. This goes all the way back to my first time playing the game, when I found a random hotel next to a destroyed bridge and vowed to come back here one day. Ladies and gentlemen, today is that day. One thing I noticed once I reached the front gates was the fact that, when scoped in, the frame rate for the game plummeted, implying a shit ton of zombies just off screen. So I opted to rely on the katana and see just how far I could get once I could get through the front door. With the parking lot secured and looted, I pushed into the lobby to find the stairways conveniently blocked, which really bummed me out. Until I looked out back to see a whole ass resort just sitting there waiting for me, along with the concierge. Sure, he looks like Ralphie May tried meth, but clearly the standards here aren't great. This isn't a weekend at the Hilton. Shit, it's barely on par with a Motel 6 or a Super 8. Thankfully, the other side of the hotel has its stairwells intact. Can't say the same for the second floor, but I really like the aesthetic of a decrepit hotel. Me too, bro. Me too. There is something to be said about having to navigate a building by going through these side rooms. It kinda reminded me of the hotel map from Left 4 Dead 2, just less. And don't get me wrong, this isn't a shot at SurrounDead or anything like that. Left 4 Dead 2 is just simply unbeatable. The best of the best. Reaching the end of the second floor hallway, I found that only the first portion of the stairwell was blocked, and in fact, I could reach the third floor this way. Alright, that's pretty good. Gotta give it to him. Hey man, it's the mid-2020s. I ain't judging. I'm gonna make fun of you later when my mic's muted, but I ain't judging. At the end of the third floor hallway, you can find a reference to The Shining, and I love that. To reach the fourth floor, you have to climb up a bunch of rubble from a collapsed floor above. There's more zombies up here, duh, but there's also the product of an average Project Zomboid experience. That's a dope shirt. I'd buy that shirt. This is once again my pitch to allow me to use Horde beacons to spawn coyote mercenaries, because god damn would this go hard. The big find on the fourth floor is the ladder in the final room. It's attached to the Kobe Express, but reaching the top slingshotted me back to the fourth floor where I shattered my femur. On my second attempt, I reached the fifth floor by jumping and spamming the spacebar on the balcony. I don't think I was supposed to go through this hole in the wall though, because I landed on a table, which got me stuck and almost killed, had it not been for the dozens of medical supplies I keep in my pants. On the opposite end of the hallway, I hopped through a hole in the balcony and landed in a military-occupied hotel room. Not sure how this dude managed to get a military locker up here, but you know what? Good for him. To reach the fifth floor, I took a ladder that I found in one of the elevators, because where else would you find one? This is the floor with the helicopter crash, sure, but it's also got this guy. No idea why he did this to himself. I would have done it for free. I ended up taking a flight of stairs up to the sixth floor, where I watched the sunset before whipping out the night vision goggles and continuing on. It really says something when I can say I spent an entire in-game day, 30 real-life minutes, and I'm on the sixth floor, when in the same amount of time, I had full cleared the port and raided West Grove in hopes of finding off-brand CJ. There's some more military crates up on the 6th floor, along with a level 2 keycard that I snatched up, and an emergency drop holding 2 notepads. I will say though, I love that as you reach the higher floors, there's better loot crates to find. More military crates, emergency drops, weapon lockers. It starts with 1 on the 4th floor, but by the 6th, it's fully loaded with every room containing some form of high-tier crate to find. providing an incentive to keep going up. Is the loot here great? No, not compared to legendary weapons that I have, but the dopamine rush I get from effectively gambling on what I'm gonna find is enough to keep me going. Especially when you find the special crate up here holding a second survivor. The gun, not the show. Or a people. Now, you might be wondering, TGP, you spent over 30 minutes climbing 6 floors. How long is it gonna take to get back down? Well, thankfully, Survivor already thought of that, and you can just use some of the massive holes in the floors to safely drop down to a lower level. Normally, I'd head back to base here, but there's still an entire second portion of the hotel to explore. While I didn't find anything worth showing in the hot tub rooms aside from Robert Kraft, I do really like the layout of Cafe Brazil. It's exactly what you think it is, a Brazilian-themed cafe. It even comes with some complimentary cigarettes. Over on the beach, I found yet another wrecked helicopter with an emergency drop. Guess the pilot got confused on the logistics of that, but we'll let that slide for now. But there's one more room that I want to talk about before we wrap up here. It's the only room on the hotel property that required me to pick the lock to enter. And upon doing so, you walk into this. Old John Meyer, Employee of the Month, and the personification of that South Park security guard from the TSA episode.
Security breach.
He's also been Employee of the Month 4 out of 5 months, with the 4th month missing. This actually made me want to go back into the hotel to find the 4th Employee of the Month picture, but by this point, I've spent almost a full hour of playtime in this one location, so I think it's time to move on. Hell, I've been here so long that the damn concierge respawned. Okay, I lied. There's one more spot to check out. The basement of the hotel. This one's quick though, I promise, because there isn't anything here. I just thought it was cool when I looked down the stairwell. And finally, after another POI bender, I looted a medical crate and made my way back to base. All in all, the hotel might just be my favorite POI in the game. Maybe second to one we're gonna go to in a bit, but definitely top 2. Alright, there are 3 infestations left on the map, so let's just get to them. What do you say? How about a little montage? Okay, maybe not a montage, but let's just breeze through these. The first of the 3 is over at an abandoned building that vaguely reminded me of Nocturne Toten, and if you don't know what that is, you're too young to be watching this video and are gonna laugh when I say 6, 7. Great, now I have to kill myself. In Minecraft. There's only one secondary infestation here, so I cleared this one in an afternoon, which was great considering it took half a day to get over here. Welcome to New Richland, home to a weird half-highway bridge thing, and this backstreet dweller. Oh, and an abandoned high-tier crate at the very top of an apartment building. One thing I will say about a lot of these crates, though, is that for the most part, they are very well placed, which is to say, even someone as brain dead as me can find them without having to look up a guide. We're back to 2 secondary infestations, but they're pretty close together, so the infestation was really easy to deal with. Same with the boss, considering he can't figure out how to get up on top of a wrecked car. New Richland is a pretty cool town to explore with a weird bridge thing, but there's also a mini quarantine zone and some other buildings to loot. But that goes against the rapid fire infestation cleanse, so you're just gonna have to drive through the bridge yourself. The final infestation zone is all the way over in the southwest of the map, next to one of my favorite POIs. But before we get to that, we gotta do this. It's only fitting that the final infestation boss gets stuck behind the destroyed remains of the primary. With all infestations destroyed, we can get to what might be my favorite location in the entire game. There's some weird logistics of it that you're just gonna have to accept, but this is what it looks like. Welcome to the Redacted area. A radiated military facility with a giant nuclear bomb lying in the middle of the road. As you make your way through the mine-riddled pathway, you'll find a sick-ass boss waiting for you, along with a few turrets shooting at nothing. Thankfully, I was out of range of the boss, so I was able to take him out without drawing aggro before pushing up to the vault. Up on top of the helipad, I looted a wrecked heli for a level 3 keycard, which couldn't come at a better time, considering I'll need one to get through a door in a second. I also looted the other room for some more stuff and even some things, before dropping everything back off at the truck. To access the vault, you need a level 2 keycard, of which I am a proud owner of several. Inside said vault are dozens of Coyote soldiers just hanging out in a tier 3 radiation vault, no biggie. This entire area is a partially collapsed subway tunnel. Not only is it crawling with soldiers, but it's completely filled with safes, military crates, and all around high tier loot boxes. Up around the bend, I used my single tier 3 keycard to open the next door, only to run into a full squad of Coyote soldiers and 2 lieutenants. On one of the lieutenant corpses, I looted another tier 3 keycard that I stashed away before spamming grenades at the remaining soldiers. This room opens up into an almost maze-like assortment of doors and locked exits, most of which contain some form of hidden cache or safe. Or you can run across the special crate for the POI. After clearing the entire tunnel, I use my final level 3 keycard to open the vault and walk out the front door. Heading into day 56, I found myself back in the truck on my way over to a city that I completely forgot about. Next to that abandoned military base in the northwest lies the town of Gladewater. Not only is it festering with zombies, but you can also find the Gladewater creature. It's just some big-ass hiker with gigantism. Oh good. O block. There's a gun store here that you can lockpick, but outside of that, it's nothing fancy. Hell, even the special crate can be found very easily just sitting in a random garage. Next on the list, Grain Valley. Probably my favorite town/city POI in the game. It's loaded with things like grocery stores, pet shops, and the famous store. The big selling point for this town is an entrance to the subway, one of my favorite places in the game, but sadly not something I need to worry about, given the fact that I'm double stacking keycards. You can also hardcore parkour your way up onto the rooftops. Are you supposed to? God no. But who are they to tell you how to play a single-player game? The mini-boss here is Mr. Weaver, who conveniently looks exactly like the Gladewater creature. For real though, my only knock on the town is the fact that the special crate can be found in one of the residential houses, instead of on a rooftop or in one of the stores or multi-story buildings. Well, all that's left to do now is blow up a random nuke in the street. This was completely unrelated, but I just really wanted to do that. Day 58 was all about wiping out the final few bosses, at least that I'm aware of. Characters like General Solomon, who are guarding a bunker in an abandoned and radiated forward operating base. Inside said bunker, I found another mini-boss guarding a level 3 keycard door. Behind that level 3 door is a ton of loot, but more importantly, a whole board tracking the movements of random characters in a small town. Look at that thing in the distance. Wanna go check it out? Cool, me too. Welcome to the oil rig. It's another tier 3 radiation zone, and yes, there are zombies here. But more than that, a puzzle, or fetch quest, whichever sounds better for you. There is a code-locked door up on the oil rig, and that code is hidden somewhere on the same rig. And thus, the quest began. As it turns out, you can find the notepad on a totally unsuspecting and not at all suspicious table at the top of the oil rig. 8396. Entering the code on the locked door opens it to reveal what I can only describe as a pile of purple cloned bodies. I think. It's a whole pile of bodies, but I couldn't tell if they just ran out of assets and just stacked the bodies a ton of times, and it's supposed to be different characters, or if it's a clone they killed like 100 times straight. Wanna take a guess what's upstairs? Was your guess a fucking grenade launcher? No? Dumbass. I never got any closure about the whole cloning thing either, because I found the boss. It's a fucking Coldplay song personified. Or zombified. Also, the zombies just kind of vibe on the ocean floor, because why the hell not? Over on the other side of the oil rig, I found another lab portion with a few dead scientists sleeping on the job. It was only after walking in that I heard a noise at the front door. Oh my god. It's John SurrounDead. But I'm John SurrounDead. An imposter. Up on the next floor up, I found a level 2 keycard door hiding some Canadian scientists inside, all dead as well. Heading into day 60, I found the special crate in the collapsed building under the oil rig. So that was cool. Oh, and that boat in the distance? You can't do anything with it. Kind of a bummer, but, you know, oh well. So I couldn't really find anything on what's going on at the oil rig, but if I had to take a guess and try to put the pieces together, here's what I came up with. You've got all these scientists and little goobers in a neat pile on the floor of a locked room, right? Well, I think it's a testing center, either for a cure or for constructing a genetically immune clone of a human. During the outbreak, John is infected, which leads to all of these tests being done. It's during said testing, though, that John becomes aggressive, transforming into more of a Kyle, really, and wipes out most of the soldiers and scientists on the oil rig, leaving a few to barricade themselves in an armory, where they end up reenacting the end of The Mist as the infected swarm around outside. That's my headcanon for now. We'll see if it changes with time, though. All that I have left to explore, at least to my knowledge, is the laboratory. But to do that, I'd like to have a legendary SMG. So, on the morning of day 61, I packed my bags and began driving around the map in search of the ice cream truck. I'm up to almost 30k in cash and just under 90 credits, so I should be able to scoop up at least a few new weapons and hopefully some more unique purchases like another Horde beacon. This ended up taking several days, mainly because I'm stubborn and refuse to just look up the map that showed where the ice cream truck can spawn, mixed in with several bandit raids and hiding in houses at night to avoid completely wrecking the truck. It would take until day 64 to find said ice cream vendor, conveniently on the one fucking road that I never checked by my base. God damn it. He didn't have a legendary SMG, but he did have a dark machete that sounded edgy, and a Valkyrie, which is just another 5.56 rifle, but I haven't used it yet in any previous playthroughs, so I scooped that up as well. Oh, and another Horde beacon, since I'm assuming they get consumed upon use. Alright, today's the day. We're clearing out the laboratory, starting with the Coyote soldiers guarding it. For them, I brought out the Barrett 50 cal that I looted from the oil rig, along with a Valkyrie for if anyone got too close. Holding the Barrett in first person gave me flashbacks to Modern Warfare 3, the OG one, not the dogshit game we got a few years ago, but with that mindset, I think it's time for a quick scoping montage for the nostalgia. I was gonna go for a 360 final kill here, but accidentally steamrolled him. Went off a Harrier too, if anyone was wondering. With the soldiers successfully sniped out, I swapped the Barrett for the Exterminator and accessed the vault door into the lab. Using a level 2 keycard opens the second door to reveal this scene. Now, originally, back in the 100% playthrough, I got distracted and spent way too much time trying to bring a generator in here to turn on power, because, as we've discussed, I'm a dumbass. In actuality, all you need to do is shoot the red power box through the broken window. The laboratory is pretty unique, at least compared to the other POIs. It's a giant vaulted compound full of narrow hallways containing some loot rooms and a shit ton of zombies. Oh, and a zombified boss that jumped me. Thankfully, I was able to shut one of the doors in time, allowing me to gun down the boss through the door opening. Honestly, the biggest difficulty spike in the lab comes from all of the zombies grouping up at the doors and then swarming you once they're open. The stack up phenomena almost got me killed several times, so shout out medkits. After killing both bosses and the 50 or so zombies accompanying them, I pushed down the right wing and spent another tier 2 card on a loot room. Next to said loot room, I found 2 more doorways that take tier 2 cards, but didn't have power to them. Behind the doors, though, are a ton of cryo chambers, which I thought was suspicious. Following that same hallway, though, led me to some active rooms that I was able to enter. Turns out, they're testing tables, not cryo chambers. Still creepy, though. I think with the lab, I was expecting to find some lore here. Maybe a few notes to read, an audio recording, just something. But instead, all that's here are a few bloody testing chambers, a bunch of dead scientists and coyote lieutenants, and 2 unnamed bosses. Like, I love the laboratory layout, but the content inside of it was a bit underwhelming. With the lab checked off the list, though, I'm officially out of places to explore, which was bittersweet. I was truly out of things to do. So, I went on a little road trip, exploring some portions of the map that are no doubt a work in progress, but there's nothing there yet. Spots like the true northwest past the destroyed bridges, or the giant open plot of land in the southwest on the other side of the Redacted zone. By day 74, I was so bored that I dropped 20k on a brand new charger just to have something fun to whip around in. From there, I spent a few more days stockpiling some supplies until I had enough to do something stupid, like craft a shit ton of landmines. Why am I crafting a shit ton of landmines? Well, I want to do some dumb shit with a Horde beacon. So, welcome back to the Observatory. I have no idea what to expect, but in a perfect world, I get some use out of these bad boys. Placing and activating the Horde beacon triggers a 30-second countdown with warnings every 10 seconds, until... I don't know what I was expecting, but it should have been obvious that the waves of zombies all begin spawning on the beacon, rendering my mines completely useless. The first two waves are just zombies, but wave 3 spawns a mini-boss. Wave 4 and 5 are back-to-back standard zombies, with the amounts increasing with each wave. Wave 6, though, spawns 2 bosses, but the names are misleading. They're named large bosses, but they only have around 1,000 health. When I think of large bosses, I think of those infestation ones that have like 4k health, so I'm hoping those start spawning on like wave 10. And while it didn't come on wave 10, I did get an actual large boss for the final wave. He looks exactly the same as the other bosses, but with triple the health. All in all, a pretty fun experience, and now that I know how it works, I can use the second one to actually build a trap or something. After the whole Horde beacon ordeal, I took a few days to just relax and get some fishing in. If you asked me why I spent so much time fishing, I'd say it was to unwind after a stressful endeavor. But if you asked me truthfully why I spent so much time fishing, I'd say it's because I got sucked into a Drew Gooden rabbit hole and spent several hours watching like every video he's made in the past few years. So here's what that looked like. At this point, I started farming credits to purchase 2 more Horde beacons in an attempt to see if I could drop off all 3 at the same time. So let's just fast forward to that. Okay, day 99. 3 Horde beacons, the rest of my mines. Let's do this. God damn it. Okay, so you can only activate 1 at a time, but I already bought 3. So... the only problem with the crashed ship is I can't use my guns while next to it. Landmines still work though. Unfortunately, the survivors won't help with the bosses, and the bosses don't like to get on boats. Hell, I wouldn't either though, if the only boat I ever saw in my lifetime was crashed into the side of a canal. Thank you all so much for watching. Surrounded has quickly become one of my favorite zombie survival games. While there's a ton of space that feels like it still needs to be fleshed out, I think it's important to remember that this is a $12 game created by a solo developer. To me, a $12 game is equivalent to a weekend killer indie game. But with SurrounDead, I've already sunk well over 100 hours into the game, and cannot wait to see what this turns into with a few more updates. Throughout this playthrough, I compiled a multi-page document marking most bugs and balancing issues that I came across, along with a wish list category for things I think would make for some really cool events in the game, most of which I've already outlined in this video. Sadly, the devs and Discord moderators were not open to bug reports, balancing issues such as the construction resource rates, or any wishlist items at this time, which is fine. I just didn't want to come off as like, I'm a YouTuber, so my opinions and notes are more important and I demand you read them. I just really liked the game, and as a fan of it, this was the best way I could think to help show my support. So, on the off chance they see this video and have a change of heart, I've attached a link to the document in the description. It's nothing crazy, just things I noticed throughout this playthrough. Regardless, I want to give a very special thank you to all my YouTube members and Twitch subs who make it possible to sit down for a few weeks to make these larger videos. You guys are the best, and I truly do not deserve you. With that though, I'm gonna get out of here. There's a story out there waiting to be told, and I think I can really nail a vintage style with it. Until then, I appreciate you all. Go call a loved one, and thanks for stopping by.